Hi everyone, my name is Friederike and I have self-taught myself how to build products with AI. And this video is for showing you my build logs. So basically showing you what I have been working on today, what I have shipped today, how I make progress on my own projects, and at the same time help you when you build a product with AI to also learn the good things, the bad things, the maybe little tricky things of how you can do it yourself. And I will go through all these little things that I have been building and then give you the reasoning why I do one thing or the other thing, so that this will help you, as said, for your own journey of building AI products and also getting a bit of a grasp of how you can make decisions with AI, what works really well and what maybe doesn't work so well. So let's get started. What I did and how I work is that I work in Notion. I put all of my different tasks and the things that I'm built and all the status notes. I know that some people do it very differently and put all of this knowledge into their code bases or have specific Claude skills or have specific Claude documentation. I have that to some extent too, but I prefer, because I work across code bases, to have everything in Notion. It just gives me more control. And I sometimes make some fun emojis when I know something is very important, so I always can go back and more easily find that. And I find it across code bases, which for me is just an easier way to do it. So what I did for today is that you can see it here. I asked the Notion AI to summarize for me everything that we shipped on June 20th, so basically shipped today. Today was a day where I did quite a lot of coding, so there's a lot of things that have been shipped. And we will just go through this shipping and I will give you some understanding of what we built and how this can benefit users, and also what were the decisions that I actually made to do that. So let's get started and start with what I have actually been building. You can see this is daily notes part 4. So this is already part 4 of all my daily notes. At some point Notion stops and doesn't let you continue filling it up. So I had to restart over and over again, and this is already my 4th table. The first one that we had been shipping and that I'm very actively working on is something called an AI agent. It's more like a chatbot, you could say. So I have one code base. It's called Creative AI Lab. It's an internal name. And what it basically does is that it is a brand hub. So you can put in all your individual brands and can wire them up in a way that you automatically have your forms, you have your newsletter, you have your newsletter confirmation form. You have basically all your information about your brands, your voice, your color, your ICP profile in that brand hub. And I really wanted to get all this information in there, so it's all one source of truth. But at the same time, I'm a very lazy person in that sense, so manual work and manual typing is not something that I like. And what I really wanted to do is to put everything behind an AI agent, so that the agent is doing all the work for me and just have a conversation with me while I fill in my data and give all the information, and it basically the AI agent fills the gap and then makes it possible to seed my website and everything else out of this brand hub. So let me show you how that looks like and what you can actually build, and how with AI agents and agent bots in that specific way. It's not an autonomous AI agent necessarily. It builds in a second layer a specific event-based infrastructure, but in the first layer it is just an AI agent and an agent bot that basically where you can talk to, and that gives you all this information that you need. So I'll show you how this looks like. Let's quickly go in here. So this is our brand hub. This is, as said, it's an internal code base that I'm currently building as a product. You see here an overview of different brands. There's actually my name here too. So I put like my own in just to make work on it, because obviously these are my own ideas. These are my own brands, or like ideas and projects that I work on. And they're a great example to use because this is something like real life. So when you test your own products, it's always super helpful if you use your own brands or something that really is connected to you, because in that way you make it more important, like you really understand the decisions that you have to make, and it's not just like a unrealistic example. And so we have this brand up here, and there's a lot of information that I can show in a second, or like in one of the later videos. But very importantly here, you have these brands, and what we can do now is, I quickly move myself over, is that we have here something called new brand. And if we click on this specific button, then we come to this new brand AI seeding agent. So this is what I have been working on today mainly. What it does is it's an AI seeding agent. So in the very first step, when I build it in a way that you can just chat with the AI agent and you seed a new brand into the system. And so as you can see here is a little drop down that shows you all the brands that already exist, plus this potential new brand. And so now what we can do is, let me move myself away again. What we can do here is we can just chat with this agent. I have a Claude model behind that. I think I have a Sonnet right now. I'm not 100% sure. I think I actually changed it. I have to look it up, like which model exactly I have. And so now we have this new one. So I could say, hey, I want to seed a new brand called, how do we call it? We take one that I actually want to build anyway. So let's put it like Rika York. There's this one, we come to this later, of why this is a really good brand to test it with, because it's something that this brand has something that I built like another feature for it as well today for the future. And so I think this is a good seeding brand. So I can say I want to seed a new brand called Rika York, and Rika York is a directory of restaurants and good locations and things to do in New York City. And we can say the website will be Rika, I don't know yet, rikayork.com or something. And so when we write this, we see the agent is thinking. You obviously can work on the latency to make sure that it thinks a bit faster as it thinks right now. But the important point is that it directly answers. And what you see as well is that it starts to give you like more information. So first what it does is it saved the identity. So this is the main base of actually starting this agent and saving the relevant information. And you also see that it created something called ShipStack Readiness. And ShipStack is another tool that we connect to our brand admin or brand hub. And this basically will be used to automatically create a website out of the information that we feed into the system here. And what you can see is that right now we have all these different points that we put in, but most of them are red. And the meaning is that it's just not ready. We have a 0 out of 100, which means that we are just not ready to send any kind of information over to ShipStack or any other tool. And the main reason is that we need more information. So out of one name and one tagline, we could create a template, we could create a brand and a website, but obviously it's a very sparse information and it might not be enough. And so this is a great way to make sure that you have all of the relevant information and you also showcase this for customers. Because what I realized when I work on this feature and the AI agent just says, oh yeah, I just saved everything. And in the first step when I tested it, it basically said, yeah, I saved everything. And then I looked it up and I realized, okay, nothing is saved. So it's obviously also, if it says green here, it's still not 100% sure that it does it. And this is something that obviously I have to work on to make it more robust and actually workable. But I already made some changes. So now what we are seeing is rather accurate in the sense that it actually does what it should be doing. And what we can be seeing here is that this readiness, if I click on the arrows, I actually see what is relevant here and I can tweak it in chat. So I see what we already have in the system right now and what we might be putting in afterwards as well. So we have that. Then we can see on the voice not set. So we have nothing set for voice. So here it's red. So we touched upon these different topics and now we can step by step fill it up as well. And our agent helps us here. So it says Rika York is created Slack as permanent Rika York. Now let me get a few quick identity details to fill this out properly. It asks about the tagline, something like never New York curated, find you New York. I started giving some idea and make it conversational, but obviously there are way more options how you can really make it crisp and clear. And also make sure that this agent is a bit more active and really gives and asks those relevant questions. This asks for the tagline, audience, B2B or consumer, brand vibe, colors, tone. And so it is like a more flexible way of filling out all of this information. And what we will be seeing in the next weeks while I build this out further, that I guide you through all of these little details and things that I will make to actually improve this agent. Because as said, it's not necessarily autonomous. It has and will have some autonomous elements in a very short time, but right now it is as it is. What you can also do, which is very nice, is you can upload files here. And I made it that way that I can not only upload simple images, but I can also upload HTML files, PDFs, and so on. And the interesting part is that Claude AI very recently launched their design feature, and I think it's a very good feature, but at the same time, some of their design is written in line. It's not written as, for example, Tailwind CSS. It's not written as a very scalable website, and that has some benefits. I find it very helpful to do some design tweaks and insights and better understanding how actually Claude is doing it as well, and then feeding that information into the system here. And then this system and my AI agent basically here understands all of this directly out of the HTML and directly can feed it into. And this just speeds up the process because I did some iterations beforehand. I plan to build these iterations also into here, especially for users who don't need like these super extensive design systems out of Claude AI design. But at the same time, it's also a very great idea, to basically just directly seed it into here and speed up the process itself. You can do this here with a folder, so you just upload a folder and you're done. And you see I also started, which is more like a experiment right now, it's still in the making, to have a background async job or worker so that not everything runs synchronous, because obviously that's not really helpful. So much about this benefit for customers. Always, obviously, it makes it way more flexible. It makes it way more easy. It's not like a very rigid system. And our agent here has a lot of those different saved identities, saved voice, saved legal. So it basically has all of these relevant tools where it can then directly save data to the database. So that was one feature that I have been building and where I think I learned a lot, especially of like how to set up this conversational agent and how to make sure that this really does what it's supposed to be doing. Let's jump back to the next thing that I have been working on today. The second one is the Creative AI Lab. You see it's exactly the same code base. It's the same project, but what I have been doing is working with 2 or even 3 different Claude code agents in VS Code. And it actually works really well, but you have to be a bit careful. So I did work with 2 or even 3 agents, or at some point 4, and I made sure that they're not acting and coding in exactly the same parts of the code base. You can have them work in different working trees, so different branches on GitHub, for example, and then just push their code back to the main branch. I personally still find this a bit confusing because I have to put on and have this all in mind when they start to do crossover code. So I'm not really a big fan of this. I might be in the future if it's a bit more aligned or I really clearly know how to separate. I prefer to have them all open just in the same code base. I currently don't have a sandbox, but I will have one very soon. As a solo developer, it's not really necessary. Obviously, you could disagree, and I probably disagree in some senses as well. But what it basically does is, and how I use it, is that I have these 4 coding agents. And for these different 4 coding agents, I then make sure that either only one works on a very deep cross-feature topic, or alternatively, I have 2, for example, that focus on specific architecting, documentation, or some auditing, while the others are working on more feature style, so that some are actually changing code and the others are not. So making sure that they work on different topics that are not directly cross-intersecting. Because I had one topic where it actually happened, because it just slipped my mind, that I let 2 of them run identical topics almost, or at least both cross-references and rather difficult topics. And it didn't really destroy that much. It wasn't that problematic, but still it was a bit on edge. So I would, if you do that, make sure that you actually take it into account and make sure that you're not completely disturbing each other's work. And in the end, then you have more work to do afterwards. So on this topic, Creative AI Lab, we built one additional feature. It's for our brand hub. So Creative AI Lab equals brand hub for this place where you can host and have different brands and see different brands. The directory feature is something that is a rather new feature. I just brought it up. It's not even in the front end. It's supposed to be in the front end, but I think it isn't. It's basically that if you want to build a website, some front end websites also have directories. So for example, this Rika York here has a directory of restaurants, and obviously I want to make sure that this product is available for that too. And so I built this feature that you can also spin up specific directories, but you have specific tables for that, so it doesn't intervene with specific content or articles on those websites. And in that sense, I just spin it up. It's a feature that is ready, but it isn't fully tested yet. And it is something that I will be working on the next days. let's quickly see if we find it. So if we go back to this brand tab here, this is the main brand tab. Then if we go in any kind of brand, we can actually see if we find Rika York actually worked or not yet. See, this is the problem. We have it in archived right now, Rika York, New York City, and it's not the same thing. So it hasn't fully worked. It actually worked beforehand. So this is definitely a feature, and not a feature, it's definitely a bug. But we can just go to another product. Let's go to Fast Grainer. And it should be here in this system, a very ugly system from a design perspective. This is not good, but you see it's not here yet, so we will be working on that at another time. Then let's go back to Notion. What else have we been shipping today? So what else we have been working on? Yeah, another same code base, another really big project that thankfully at least came to phase 1 end today. So we have a bit of a difficult structure with our brand hub because currently it's not a multi-tenant brand, or like a product, but it is like a solo admin person product. And the main reason is that it was built in a different way. So it had a different front end and membership tiers. And then we built an admin on top, and this admin now is only me, but it is not a full, admin structure in the way brand hub structure for only this admin section. So I'll show you quickly how this looks like. So you have here, this is all my admin work, but now the admin work basically became a product itself. And then we have a normal front end page that has membership tiers, that has district cities map. So it's like a creative city. And it was built for that, and then I would have an admin dashboard, and my admin dashboard would basically bring me to my brand hub. And for that reason, we need to make some changes here to exactly that product, because that product was more like a let's learn coding and let's learn to build this product, but it's not really a product that is necessarily sellable. It's more like a creative one. And for that reason, we have to make those changes, and the question is how to make those changes, right? And we decided I decided with the AI to build like a multi-tenant system and an authentication system, but I didn't trust the AI to completely make sure that we make these authentication changes and all the table changes and cleaning up the database without knowing myself exactly what is actually in there and what tables we have seeded and what is in those tables, that we are not making any big mistakes. And that is one thing that I learned over the time, that it's super helpful if you work with AI and can do amazing things. But if it comes to nitty-gritty details, if you let it go a bit too fast, you have a really big problem. Because then if it goes a tiny bit too fast, it might destroy something or wire tables, data, information, code up in one way or the other that you just don't want to have. And for that reason, I made the decision for that specific project that I would actually one by one go through all the tables in our Superbase database or PostgreSQL, where basically go one by one through the tables and see what is in those tables and give sample rows and information to the AI, and then let the AI examine the code base and figure out how it's wired, plus at the same time do some background checks as well, and then decide together, okay, is this a table that we want to keep? Is it a table that we want to defer the decision because we need more information for other tables? Do we want to drop those tables and why? And put this all in a document to make sure that everything is in one place. And so how this looked like is that I would go here. This is our table. You see all our tables here. Basically, I just picked one that is empty. So obviously this is some information I don't want to share. But basically I went just one by one through these tables here and would then say, okay, for example, there are sample rows, there are specific information, and would then jump into the code base and there work on the document. And I can show you how this document was set up. So let's go to the code base, and we have here DB, archaeologically decisions. So you see it's a very long document, and what this document basically does is that it goes table by table. Let me quickly jump it. Here, walk through batch 1. So I would always work in batches. So I would give the AI 5 to 10 different tables and all the information about it. And then it would put together this information about the tables, and we would jointly decide what happens with those tables. and then put everything together. So afterwards, we would then make this decision, okay, what kind of tables do we drop or delete, extract. We also had one project where we actually extracted a bunch of tables and created like a temporary home for those tables in the code base. And I can actually show you what it is. It actually works. It's actually live. It's actually in production. It's very detailed work. It's very manual work, but at the same time, it helps you to really understand what is in your code base, especially if you had AI just do a bunch of things, especially in the very starting points of this code base in this project, and not really taking care of it, or just not being as advanced yet to really understand what's going on. But then the more you would do this, the more I felt that sometimes those very manual audits are very helpful to actually get the best results. Because now I know exactly what is in each individual code table, and I know exactly what it means, and I know the columns, and I know, is it valuable or is it not valuable, and do we need it for the code base or not? And I can also see, okay, how are those wired in the code base, and what kind of tables go together, what kind of tables need to stay together, and this just really helps. And so here you see walkthrough, so batch 1, table 1, it goes like how many rows, migration, did we actually find it? So this one we didn't even find, but most of them we find. We actually have most of them in our system. Yeah, it shows us the columns, sample data, code wiring. Okay, my recommendation, that's the AI recommendation. I obviously often had like recommendations myself already because I knew the context, and the AI was missing a lot of context and history about those tables. And then it was my decision to say, okay, what are we actually doing with that table? And now currently we are in the process of cleaning everything up, extracting data, and so on. So you see this whole document is very long. It has 3,200 rows, but it is very valuable, and it is a very important piece as well for your code base so that you know exactly what's going on. Because obviously I can code a lot for you, but if you don't know what actually is in the code base and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, it's very difficult for you to also find errors, and it's very difficult for you to be confident about what you're building. So this is this project, and maybe one fun thing that we did out of it, we extracted a very big piece that is not anymore in the code base. I actually should have shown you beforehand before we completely extracted and deleted it, but I can show you where it is now, because it is a fun project I was working on for a while and still do, and might at some point spin it out in a more professional way maybe, or even bring it back as a brand, as a directory, and as a quiz page for our brand hub. Let's quickly show it to you. So it's this one. This is this little project. It's called FIPAC. And FIPAC is basically a framework for people that have creative and maybe some neurocomplex traits. And it gives 30 different archetypes together in a nice mixture. And you can do a personality assessment out of those. And FIPAC basically stands for fast with the F, I for intense, P for complex, so complex with a big P, A for aware, and C for creative. And you have these little cute characters, and you can here make your FIPAC assessment test. So if I click on the assessment test, you have a quick insights and a full assessment. I can tell you full assessment was 100 questions. I tried it myself and I realized it's way too long, but it's still fun. And the quick insights is 25 questions. I actually did it today, and it works really well. It's nice, it's fun, and you get your very personalized archetype. And you can see here your 30 archetypes, and they are all based on these different FIPAC letters. So we have fast here for the blue ones. Then we have I intense for the I. We have complex for the P. We have aware for the green, the A. And we have creative yellow for the C, creative. And you can see they then go by cognitive, emotional, sensory, existential, physical, and relational topics. There is some research behind this and some resources. I have to spin them up. But there's some really good resources and books about talking exactly those different styles, and also talking about these different levels of how it showcases or might showcase within individuals. And I liked it, and I thought it was a very fun idea to put these characters together, to actually create those characters, to create the different meanings of these characters, and to put together that test. And when you take this test, you can also click on these individual archetypes. So if I click on the rapid strategist, You here see it, fast and cognitive. You see some inputs about understanding the rapid strategies, key strength, common challenges, ideal work environment, relationship patterns, and growth and development. And next time we can also go through the quiz and I can tell you what am I, what comes out for me, and then if you want to, you can do it yourself too. So this is FIPAC, and this is one project that came out of this code base that I had been working on for a while. And this was one of the first projects that we did that we extracted. And then this Wika York brand, the restaurants and locations in New York, will be the next one that we will be also spinning out. And then later on integrating into the brand hub again when we have all the relevant features that make those pages really work and be created by themselves. So let's go back and see like what else we shipped today. So let's go to the next one. We had the Creative AI Lab data table audit and cleanup. We talked about this. Then we talked about the FIPAC migration extraction cleanup, which was a big push. Yes, it sounded big. It wasn't that big if you look at everything else that we built and that we shipped today, but still it was a very nice one because now we have this live in that code base, and it's a very individual code base for people where whoever is interested in that specific topic finds information for that specific topic. So I realized, which I did beforehand with my Creative AI Lab and this code base that you saw, that I put everything under one roof, which is fun, which can work, but which also is very confusing for people who are looking for one or two specific things. And for that reason, I wanted to spin them out and have them as individual brands, and also testing individual brands. And that's the reason, and that's progress that we're making here, to putting these different brands back in the brand hub to have this one source of truth, but at the same time having like really one specific buyer and one specific product or offering that we're having, and we're not mixing everything together. Then we're working on one other project, which is also something that we will be wiring together to our brand hub. It's called Content Creator. So Content Creator is an automatic content publishing and creator tool. And what we're doing here is that it was created in a way that it created different pipelines and different workers doing different tasks, like autopilot creating content, for reviewing content, for transforming text and images and so on, without necessarily being all aligned and having the same prompt and the same parameters that goes into those prompts and those decisions. And for that reason, we are currently cleaning it up in that sense that then it only has one clean pipeline with different parameters, and it's not such a mess internally. And I can quickly show you the tool, but as said, it's not yet live. So this is Amplicast here. Amplicast is, as said, our content publishing tool. And what you see here is that under the hood, we have AI agents that basically are workers that are heavily AI run and have different AI APIs with them, so that they can on autopilot avoid specific topics here and generate those topics. It can create content. It sees content, reviews topics. It has a calendar, and it has sources and channels. So basically, where does it get data from, and where does it then push data to, like Instagram, LinkedIn, and so on. And under the hood, there are different workers, so basically AI agents, but also just like code that is running whenever a specific event is happening. And they are like all over the place, and we are trying to automate and bring them together. And in the next videos, I will go into a bit more details when we are actually making more progress on that. And I can show you how we are wiring that up and how exactly those code, like those structures are looking, so that it actually makes sense. Then let's see what else. ShipStack. ShipStack is that tool that we're using for creating those websites and building our websites automatically, so that we don't even have to touch it. And what building means is that it reads all of our brand configuration. It then runs the code against specific templates in a very flexible way though. And it ships and validates, but it also tests and makes sure that everything is working well under the hood. And when this is done, it basically makes sure that this website is live. And this website comes with specific configuration, so that, for example, it when it creates a newsletter form, it automatically wires this newsletter form into our brand hub. So whenever someone signs up to a newsletter, this whole confirmation flow directly is wired up into the brand hub and automatically goes also into it so that we see our newsletter subscribers directly in the brand hub. And in that way, we have this brand hub where all the brands have all the data, and we also write data into it automatically when we have specific events, so that wiring up those websites is not something that takes ages, especially if you want to bring your newsletter form in, if you want to bring other forms in, if you want to bring a meeting booking tool in, if you want to connect it to outreach agents, if you want to make sure you have all of this relevant information under one hood, because that's something that I found extremely annoying all the time, that you have like all these different tools and then you have to see how you wire them up, and then you need the information again, and how do you find the information, where does the information lie. But if you want to do it with more and just test a bit more, try something out, see how the market goes, be someone that is just super innovative and a bit too innovative sometimes and just does it all together. And in that sense, I find the brand hub extremely helpful because I have everything there. I can make some changes, and those changes, I don't have to make these changes and adaptations one by one with all individual tools, but I can basically do it just once and it directly triples to all the other relevant tools and agents that then adapt and run again. And so ShipStack, as said, that's something where we also currently working very close to connect to our brand hub to make this a completely automatic experience. And we did this half or semi-automatic. We also worked on something very fun, a bit of a different project, something that has more to do with finding a job. I'm still debating within myself if I actually want to bring the products to life so you can directly work on the projects and test it out, or if I want to work and build products in other companies. And for that reason, I created myself a job search and LinkedIn helper. It's actually 2 different code bases. It's not one. One of them is for creating CVs, very clearly adapted to my own experiences. And I will go into some more detail into a different video where I share how I set this up. So here you see this is one CV that our agent just created. It's basically for a founding forward deployed engineer. And it gives us some information about the profile, why I'm a fit, core competencies, experience, and so on. And it is an application that I actually sent out, and it's a CV that I actually let it create. And it has all the relevant information about myself in the background that I fact-checked and that I ran a very detailed diagnostic about, so that when we have specific roles, it can automatically put these CVs together for the roles and make it very aligned to the roles. And we also know what roles are the most relevant ones. And so these CVs are normally very clearly aligned to those roles. Obviously, there's very likely a lot of things that we can improve, running through some more validations and improvements. But I think it's a great start, and it takes a lot of time off my table while creating those CVs and adapting them to the relevant jobs. Then we also worked, or basically with the AI agents, and in that sense, Claude Code worked on a LinkedIn helper. It's a nice little tool that I spin up for myself. We just need one person we are not connected to. Okay, Pierre Söteberg, we don't know him. We see what happens is that we have this little LinkedIn helper here. It directly takes the LinkedIn URL, the name. It doesn't work perfectly yet, but what it basically is supposed to be doing when it's then working fully is that it makes us easier for us to directly save this information into our CRM system, and we have all of the relevant information and also a short message about him. So let's go back to our overview for the day. So these are just like job search and especially LinkedIn helper. These are small little projects, but I realized that Claude Code, or in general AI, can be very helpful, especially for those operational activities. So something where you just don't want to do it yourself, or just admin steps. And so just using VS Code and then Cloud Code within is a very good combination of making that work. And how I like to work is in different code bases at the same time. So when one AI agent is working, I just focus on another AI agent in a different project. And in that way, I can work way more effectively across those projects instead of just waiting for ages until one AI agent is ready. And I know that some people do it differently and just let an AI agent run the whole day and then just come back in the evening and say, okay, let me see what it built. But it also burns a lot of tokens. And at the same time, I still like to have a bit more control and really know what I'm doing so that I can actually also better understand my own code bases and also build it up further and really build those features that are relevant for me and not to just let it, completely build loop after loop and still not really knowing what it is doing. If the loop is helpful and I know exactly what it's doing, great. But if I'm not, or if I just give it like a huge chunk of work, it might work, but I feel the work of actually then understanding what it did might take longer. But at some point in the future, we might try this out as well. But that was the main chunk of work that I had been working on today across my code bases and across my products that I'm building. I have some vision or like a clear vision in my mind of like how it's supposed to be looking like in the future. So I roughly know like where we want to go to and what the next steps can be. But it can be very helpful for you if you push this through, if you go through it, that you have some kind of understanding where you want to go to, and then also make sure that step by step you're going there. And sometimes it might take longer, sometimes it might take shorter. Most importantly is you just keep going. And when I started doing that, I had some idea of what I wanted to build, and that's how I started. And I fell down a lot of times just because I basically had no understanding about coding. But just the understanding and the will to say, okay, I really want to do this and I want to understand how it works, but also like how I can actually build it, really brings you to understanding, okay, what kind of hurdles do you find and then how you can actually solve those hurdles. And I would love for you to subscribe if you like the content. Leave me a comment. Tell me how you think it is. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me how I can improve and what you would like to see. And with that, have a great day. Talk to you soon.